Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. We've had a very dangerous development in Iraq in the last couple of hours. An airstrike targeted Abu Bakr al-Sa'idi and two of his colleagues. Abu Bakr al-Sa'idi is a very leading figure in the Iraqi Hezbollah al-Iraqi. They are a movement similar to Hezbollah in Lebanon that belongs ideologically to Iran. This movement has been active since the invasion of Iraq in 2003 and 2009. They also went into Iraqi politics. Initially, they were established to fight the American led coalition in Iraq, but later they also participated in politics. They still had actions that were ongoing. This is a very dangerous escalation. Killing someone like As-Sa'idi and two of his colleagues hasn't been done in a very long time. This type of assassination hasn't been done in Iraq particularly for a very long time. The United States has an agreement with the Iraqi government against targeted assassinations. Obviously, there were many assassinations previously, but they have an agreement with them that is ongoing. When they had airstrikes not long ago against the Iraqi resistance movements that were attacking US bases and other parts across the Middle East, particularly US and Israeli locations, the US coalition, they had an airstrike against their bases. Back then, the United States said, we informed the Iraqi government. But the Iraqi government denied this. They said no one informed us about anything. Some of the reporters in Iraq are saying that there was inside information, but it wasn't revealed, which could be the case. But in terms of an official state stance, the United States has breached its agreement with the Iraqi states. It's no longer linked to the movements already. Like a couple of days ago, when they made the attack, several people were killed. Obviously, they attacked bases, but it wasn't a targeted individual. They didn't want to kill particular people. They had a general base targeting back then against Al-Hashd al-Sha'bi. But when it came to that attack, a leader in Al-Hajj al-Sha'bi started saying that we need to expel all of the remaining US forces and foreign forces from Iraq. And this assassination is reigniting the calls to completely get rid of all of Iraqi bases, all of the US bases, in Iraq. The question is, how will this movement respond? So this obviously is ideologically backed by Iran. They belong to Wilayat al-Faqih, and they have been active with the Iraqi resistance when it comes to attacks against bases. And this individual particularly, he was a leading figure in the unit that was in charge of airstrikes or UAVs and missiles within the Iraqi Hezbollah. Now, so he has expertise. With regards to the retaliation, it could go two ways potentially. Number one, they have a very intense strike against multiple targets in Iraq, like a much higher tense strike against multiple bases in Iraq, potentially in Syria as well. Or if we reach a deal, because most of this is involved with Israel. Most of the escalation from the resistance movements in the Middle East is linked to Israel's genocide in Gaza. The Iraqi movements, the Yemenis, they're targeting American bases because of American support for Israel. People shouldn't forget that. People must remember these things. If we see a de-escalation, that could potentially reduce the tensions, but the Iraqi government is now, some officials in the Iraqi government are calling to just completely end the US presence in Iraq. The problem is, where are we going? I'm talking more in my live streams that I'm publishing about the deal, the rejection, the amendments that Hamas made. Netanyahu today said he is not going to make any, he's not going to accept the amendment. So, if this can potentially lead to a further escalation when it comes to Gaza, and we're not looking for a temporary ceasefire, you're looking for a much worse situation in Iraq and in Yemen. Abd al-Malik al-Houthi, the leader of the Ansarullah al-Houthiyin, he said if the aggression against Gaza won't stop, we will be intensifying our reaction. We've had multiple airstrikes in populated areas by the US and UK coalition. And obviously, the Ansarullah, they're still putting their whole focus on Israel. They're obviously attacking US ships and UK ships in the Red Sea. They're still attacking ships that are going to Israel. They're still enforcing their embargo on Israel to highlight that this is our main aim. As a matter of fact, their main retaliation a couple of days ago was against Israel rather than the UK and the US. But you're talking about a completely different approach because you're stepping too far into Iranian-linked territories. So if you're going to start having targeted assassinations against figures, the leading figures in movements that are directly ideologically linked to Iran, you will potentially have more serious retaliation, not just from these groups, but from Hezbollah potentially as well. Because when they assassinated some of the Iranian officials in Syria, we had intensified actions from Hezbollah in Lebanon. When the Hamas leader was assassinated, when other figures were assassinated, Hezbollah attacked the main air command base, and Israel has two in the north. They attacked the main IDF command base in North Israel as well, in Safad. And when they declared their retaliation, they said it's a retaliation against the targeted assassinations. So with Al-Aruri, the Hamas member, they had one initially that, and they said it was a targeted attack as a first step retaliation for his assassination. But Israel continued assassinating other figures, and then Hezbollah declared that our retaliation is for all of these people who were assassinated, not just Saleh al-Aruri. So if you're talking about assassinating a figure in the Iraqi Hezbollah, Kitab Hezbollah al-Iraqi, which is directly linked to Iran. It's like a twin movement with Hezbollah in Lebanon. You're potentially talking about a retaliation also from Lebanon, an intense attack on Israel as a retaliation. It might not be an all-out war, but it could be a very strategic hit. And Israel confirmed that the bases that they attacked, whether when it came to the air command base or the IDF command base, they did a lot of damage. Hezbollah showed recordings of them hitting the air command base with 62 missiles, guided missiles, and they all hit them. They hit the facilities, and they could potentially kill people there. But obviously Israel didn't declare anything when it came to casualties. But they did attack them. They caused a lot of damage to the air command base, and they caused a lot of damage to the IDF base in Safad as well, not just the one in Mount Mirun, the air command one. So this is a very serious escalation, and with the likelihood of the genocide continuing in Gaza, we could potentially see a far greater retaliation from the movements in Iraq and from Yemen as well. And I say this particularly because 2 weeks before the intense attacks of the United States against the Iraqi movements, they said we're putting our operations on hold in the meantime. So the US started attacking them intensely after they paused. This could potentially be the same case with Gaza, and Hamas is very wary of that, and that's why they're looking for many guarantees. I will also be talking about the ceasefire, the updates from it in my live stream. So if you haven't watched it, please do watch it. And I will hopefully see you soon in the next video. Take care.